1/14/25 Board of Registrar meetings. This meeting of the Registrars will come to order. The time is 12 o'clock. I will call the roll. Lisa Yitz.
Present.
John Bonina.
Present.
Mike Jeanette.
Present.
And I am also present. So the board would like to welcome Mike to his first Board of Registrars meeting as the interim town clerk.
Yeah.
So Mike, welcome. And
Thank
we're
you guys
glad to
very
have
much.
you on board.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Looking forward
Glad
to
to be here.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Item 1, end of year report. So has everyone taken a look at the end of year report?
Yes.
I got your emails back, so I think it's okay. Obviously, so what we did this year was a little bit different. We went to, if you remember one of our previous meetings, we talked about going to something that was a little bit more, number one, that pretty much we all got to see before it got put into the report by the town, and that we all had input in, could see it, and it was a little bit of an expensive format from what had been done in the past. So I was able to, by the help of all of you and Mike as well, I was able to get the information that we needed for that, and so I think it came out pretty good. We stayed pretty much to the template that we had agreed to use from one of our prior meetings, and so that part of it I think came out pretty good.
Dan, so I know that we had talked about it a little bit.
Yes.
So I just wanted to bring up so I pulled the numbers for us.
Okay.
For the financial report.
Yep.
I don't know if you got, however you guys would like to do it. So I'll show you guys exactly how it was turned in last year.
Okay.
From the board. This is how we turned in the financial report
Yep.
to the annual town report. So that's what it looked like from last year. So I asked accounting, they got me the numbers for the exact same groups. Those were the exact same sets that were over the $2,500 magic number. And so I just wanted to make sure that we had that as part of our report that was going to be submitted from this board.
Right. That's perfect.
Okay.
I did notice that I forgot all about the financial part of it. I
Not
happened to look. So as you all know, probably right at the end of the year, they put out a big book. I happened to look at last year's book, and on the second page was the financial report, which we as a board had nothing to do with. Candy would do those numbers. So if you want to just take a quick look. So Mike was able to get those numbers, right, Mike, from the powers that be. On the left side is the 2020, that sheet on your left hand is the 2023, that's the printout. I made a copy of it out of the book. And so on the right is numbers so we have to create that document, as, you know, so this is, I guess, the narrative. We're all set on the narrative report of the board. And then there's the financial number piece to it. And so we'll have to create that document.
And so just so you guys know, the top section that was missing was when I sat down with the
Financial people?
financial group, they told me that the salary portions of this was not necessarily our responsibility. So what they asked for was just all of the expenses that were over the $2,500 number. So for me, including I did the one for obviously the town clerk's office. So I also just sent my own expense report, but the salaries and things are going to be done by accounting. That's what I was informed of. So that's why when I printed it out, I just printed it out as the sheet, the way that we would have it be laid out right there.
Yeah, so if we can abbreviate,
Yes.
sounds like what you're saying is this year's sheet will be an abbreviation of last year's
Correct.
sheet? Perfect.
Yep. It's just going to be those. It's just going to be those expenses that the board had occurrence that were over $2,500, and that's the same list as last year. There was nothing else on there that would have gone over the number, so that's all that we would need to have posted.
And it's because the salaries are covered under a different portion of the annual report.
Yes.
Different
Yes.
department.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. That's what I was informed of when I was going over some of this information with that group. Thank you.
Okay.
And so really, this is abbreviated, Mike just explained, it's abbreviated because
Yeah.
of that.
Okay.
That's great. Do you want to try to create that document, or do you want us to try?
So I certainly can go in and just make those changes and have it typed out exactly like that, and I can have it sent to the group, and then if you guys want, you'll just can include it with the packet with the sheet of the summary for the year, and
Yeah,
that's
to
fine.
be fair, I don't know, I know the select board gets it, I don't know who I mean, I can speak to Amber, so if you can create that document,
Yes,
I'm
yeah.
comfortable approving the report as the narrative that we've read and what's going to be created on the financial piece. Mike knows exactly what that needs to be. So I would suggest we vote to approve it, and then when Mike gets me that document, we'll submit them all.
Okay.
Because we can see how the document is going to look. How do
Absolutely,
you
yeah,
feel about
yeah, that original page is perfect, and then I think our financial report, the way that I'll have it typed out, is gonna be exactly like last year. Obviously, aside from having the salaries listed on there, and we'll just have it submitted as one item, and I think that's all that they were looking for from the town administrator's office.
So if I could just ask a couple questions about it. LHS Associates is, who are they?
So that's the group that like works on all of our machines. So like they
Okay.
come in and test our machines. They
see.
they do so
I see.
basically all of our election materials, they kind of are the group that does all the work on that stuff for us.
Okay. And mass mailers were things like.
Yeah, all of the things that we
Yeah,
all like
for
so
the
over
voting.
4,500
Yeah.
mail-in ballots for the November election, and
Yeah.
a couple thousand for each of the other
Sure.
three were included in that.
Okay. And then the Grafton Police were for the polling sites, right?
Correct. Yep.
And
That's
the
yep.
Inclusion Solutions, what is that group?
Oh, can I see? Sorry.
Oh, that's the old
So
one.
just be clear, right, you're
Yeah.
using last
Nope.
year, so Mike
No,
not
it's
might
still on,
have.
it's still on.
Oh,
this-
okay.
Yeah, I
Yep.
have that. I have that. Yeah, I could check the breakdown in our system
Yeah.
to let you know exactly what that group is for.
Yeah,
I just when I had accounting help me find the numbers,
Yep.
they just printed it out, and that's how it was listed on our payments. It's just like that's what that's the payment that we made to that particular group, and obviously it was over the $2,500
Yeah.
number. So I can try to figure out exactly what that company.
well, it might be good in case somebody asks us. You know, like,
Sure.
What is this for, you know, cause it's the town budget, so, you know.
Yes, and
And,
again, I would be very secure in saying that
Yeah.
I would anticipate, because we have like obviously the voting machines, we have all the voting materials. The state obviously sends us like the ballots for other elections, but for the local, we actually create it ourselves and have our own vendor that prints out all of those election things.
might
So
be
so that
part
could
of it.
possibly be
Yeah.
one of those groups that also does that for us.
Yeah,
Plus, all the envelopes and things that have to get sealed are, so that there's a number of things obviously that like we have to request, and so
Yeah.
I would generally guess that is encompassed in all of the election materials that we got sent for the fiscal year of 24.
Yeah, it's interesting that we had more elections this year, but we had less police costs. Just,
Well, so again, because the fiscal year here is July,
yeah,
so technically 24 would have included
oh, I see.
all of 23, starting the 23 year. So there actually was a couple of elections that would be included in our 25 budget instead. So like the big one this year on 11/5, that's going to be part of fiscal year 2025.
Oh, I see.
So that police
That makes sense.
grouping was going to cost us additional funds for the extra security,
Yeah.
because of obviously, the size and some fears of that election possibly being a problem. We did all those trainings and everything, and the state was a little concerned. And so, obviously it certainly went phenomenally well in terms of like what the clerk's office and this group, I think, sitting with you guys at that last meeting, I know, doing the audit, I think it couldn't have gone any better, but that will reflect on our fiscal year of 2025 and
makes
not
sense.
2024.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
that would be the most, I would say that for sure, Jack, that's the most expensive election we're gonna have, so whatever
That's why I was
expenses
wondering,
incurred,
as it was.
yeah, were incurred at that
Yeah.
2025 11/5, that's gonna be in fiscal
Yeah.
year 25,
Yeah.
and even though the election happened in 24.
Okay, yeah, good.
Great explanation.
Yeah,
want to
absolutely.
Pick up. Jack.
Yes, yep, and I'll, like Dan mentioned, I will put this together with the new numbers, and I will send it to the entire group, and I know we approved it for now, but certainly everybody will just, give the thumbs
That'd be
up,
great
and we'll have
if
it
we have it.
submitted. Absolutely.
So I will take a motion to approve the 2024 end of year report.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 4-0 on that one.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. That's.
Yeah, that was
really-
great.
Really helpful.
All right. And to be, I appreciate that Mike even wanted to talk. It's nothing on the 3 previous years or whatever. It's the financial piece was never really talked about too much, and so
Yeah, and I'm
we didn't have
fairly-
experience with it. So
fairly
again,
new, so-
another
Yeah.
good thing I feel like our board is like, hey, all right, so let's move into this, and so we're expanding, and I love that type of stuff. So and Mike, thanks for
Absolutely.
explaining that.
I'm very
Awesome.
glad. A big shout out to Cindy I from the TA's office. She sent me the copies of the previous years, and so obviously because she knew that I would, at least for the time being, like meet with you guys with the Board of Registrars.
Yeah.
So she sent me the 2023 copy of the report. So that was fantastic, and so I was able to see the financial stuff, and I was able to request those numbers and help to present it today. So I thought that was awesome of her. To do
I
that
agree.
for me.
Really good. Thank you, Cindy.
yeah.
Okay, item 2, Veris deleted voter extract. So, in our previous meetings when we talked about, trying to take a hard look at the voter rolls and see if there are things that we needed to do there, an extract that the state does produce is a deleted voter file extract. So I know for, the back and forth we had with the previous clerk a little bit was, yep, we're getting out of piecemeal, and and she was, the office was understaffed, but she was trying to get at those the folks we identified, whether they were deceased, whether they were duplicates, whether potentially they had moved, to have them taken off the rolls. This file, I think, I know for me, if that I'm aware of it now, if we had access to it, we could see, and maybe on a more routine basis, hey, we will ask the clerk's office, could you send the deleted voter file for this month? However, we thought, in as kind of a checks and balance to see that, yes, the voter rolls, this work is being done to remove. I mean, so that was, this is the conversation that we're having. I didn't know that file existed, but now I do know it exists. And so, I put it out there to all of the board to say, is this something that, yeah, maybe whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly, that we ask. And Mike could probably go over it a little bit better. I think it's a VRIS file.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
so
please.
the report, which was fantastic, because what was requested is that we had them remove all of the excess that was, attached to our system. So that file that I sent over is the most up to date of all the deleted groups in 24. And so, just quickly, because since this is how we do it, so for example, today I'm certifying some births and some deaths that occurred in the past couple of weeks as we get them in, from Worcester or whatever, wherever somebody's born, that city or town has to send them to us before we can certify them. So after I certify a death, what I do is I go into VRIS and I remove that particular voter, whether they were a voter or even just a regular citizen that no longer votes, and I remove them from the system. They get deleted as deceased. So we do that. And then we also, obviously, not that they would be getting registered, but the new babies in town will all get put into the system and added to families that are attached. So obviously you'll see that, like you guys, I'm sure, are going to receive your census very soon if you haven't already.
Yep.
Yep, got it
And so that's how that stuff happens. And the last thing I'll say, because I just want it noted, is that the state is very tough on us about removing voters that, parents or people that live in a house will tell us have moved. The problem is that we have to have a wet signature of that particular person before we can remove them from the list. Now, we can make them inactive, and then after a year, they can then be removed. But that's a major issue for us, because obviously and it's so unfortunate, because I've seen people mail it in and say oh, we asked for a removal. And so unfortunately, we have to have that signature. So we've been trying to do our best to explain that. So somebody actually came to the counter today, and she had her daughter and son-in-law who don't live at the house, and she wanted to have them removed. So I just explained to her, like, listen, if you can put their names at the bottom, there's a little space at the bottom of the census, and if they both sign and there's a wet signature that gets brought to our attention, we're able to remove them right away. So that's unfortunately part of the reason why we actually have some people on there that may have moved away. Other states aren't great about getting back to us to have them removed. Some states are better than others. Some counties are better than others. And so, yeah, so we do our best to keep up as quickly as we can when we have stuff like that occur.
That's a great explanation, Mike. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was very
Absolutely.
good. And I know you say we, and I understand, but but we are the we. You know what I mean? Like, I know you're referring to the town clerk's office, but essentially that's our role too. And this is, I don't want to say the struggle, but this is the conversation we've had with Candy in as the years go. It's just like, I understand what you're getting at, but not being in your office with you as people that really are tasked with the same task you are as town clerk, but / really registrar. That's our thing too, so but that was a great explanation, and it was good elaboration of what I think we had suspected, or that we we kind of knew was going on, but it was articulated very well.
Can I ask one question related
Of
to
course.
this? If you become aware that somebody has moved out of town, you can put it inactive even though you don't have a wet signature.
So generally what would happen is that, yes, if you get information in and we don't have a signature, but somebody has given to us, like, written the name out at the bottom and a new address and everything. So we go above and beyond in theory, because what we do is we mark them as inactive, and then the new address down at the bottom that's been listed, we mail them a letter that says, I am no longer an active citizen of Grafton, or I am still an active voter in the town of Grafton. And then there's a spot for a wet signature on that particular letter that we mail out. And we actually send them a self-addressed stamped envelope so that they can actually mail that back into us.
Yeah.
So I have sent out, last year we sent out dozens and dozens to different states, to different towns inside of Massachusetts, new cities, and we did get a number of them back with check marks that I have moved. So then we were able to go in, and when we get that letter in, we'll put that in with the rest of the town census to show that that person is no longer there.
Yeah.
And then we will be able to physically remove them from the system.
Yeah. So it's quite complicated, actually, to remove.
The state requires that additional go-ahead, which, I do understand, because certainly if somebody maliciously says, yeah, he or she no longer lives in Grafton, and then they go to vote and we've removed them because somebody said,
Yeah.
hey, you don't live here anymore because so-and-so said you don't, then we would incur a major issue.
Okay.
So that's why we're more hesitant about
Yeah.
making sure that that we get a full signature on somebody before they're actually removed from the.
Okay. But so, like, those people that showed up at your office yesterday and said that their son-in-law or whatever.
Yes.
You couldn't put an I next to it until you.
Yeah, I wouldn't put an I next to it until we got like the paperwork back that was
Okay.
signed from the household.
Okay.
So everybody will get one assigned to your particular household, and then the person generally that like is on the mailing list would be the person that signs the bottom of it for us. And if they make changes on there, of course, we'll go in there and make the changes, like, jobs and things like that. But if they ask specifically to have somebody removed,
It's gotta
if
be-
their signature is not down at the bottom, we're gonna mail a letter that's, and like that goes into the computer that says we mailed this letter on 1/14. And until we hear back, they would just be on that list.
Okay. All right. Well, that explains a lot for me, in terms of, how things happen, because we were wondering, why things didn't move quicker to remove, but now that's pretty clear.
It's amazing the process that they make you go through. And again, like I said earlier, I do understand, because every once in a while somebody would do something inappropriate, like please remove so-and-so from the
Right.
list because they no longer live here. but the person, is living in town and would very much like to vote in the upcoming,
Sure. Oh, yeah, you can see where.
Local
I do hear you there, and I appreciate that you're concerned for the citizen that does, I'll use the word disenfranchised from voting. However, I'm nearly certain if they were to show up at a polling place, that they'd have the ability to do a ballot that's a conditional ballot, whatever, and it's going to get provisional ballot. Thank you. That's going to get, but I completely understand. You know what I mean. It's the signature piece. I think is the hard part. It's just like you've explained it well. We do understand. But getting at those things and trying to identify that group of folks and the duplicate folks and. As we talked about before, Jack, this board can hold we can, if you had information that wasn't good enough, let's say the clerk's office looks at it and says, there's not enough here for us to either make a voter inactive or to, in their opinion. This board has the ability to legally have that voter come in. We talk, granted, it's not done a lot. I realize but if there was something that, if in talking to the clerk's office and Mike as a registrar and, we disagreed, how we wanted to go about it, our board can have hearings. We can bring people in and we could do that ourselves. But I can say, I've been at this a little longer than the both of you, and I've been nothing but my confidence is always reinstilled in how things are done in this town. It's just with how the town clerk runs elections, and as someone that perhaps felt like, well, I kind of raise an eyebrow at certain things. I do, but it's just not to the level, or certainly the these isolated incidents, anecdotal incidents. It's not to the level where it's just like, yeah, we really have a problem here in town. I just don't believe that. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that Candy, I think, helped me to understand was there's checks and balances.
Yep.
So that's the thing that, I feel fairly confident that we're moving in the right direction with our elections. And
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I know, and I talk about it a lot, is 2024 and every 4 years like that are like, it's like playing in the Super Bowl. Like, you've got 4 elections that are going to happen throughout the year.
Yeah.
And the one thing that certainly I would take from that is, as even just the interim clerk, is you want the citizens of Grafton to just be able to come in, cast their vote, and know that everything is being done, professionally, and that every vote is going to count, and that these elections are being run the way that they would hope. And quite frankly, I thought last year was absolutely spectacular. We get audited by the state. The audit goes phenomenally well. The machines generally did their jobs. Our election teams did their jobs. You guys came in with Candy at the time to do the audit. I thought that went fantastic, like with the group of election workers that were able to come in and help us that day. I don't think all the towns are able to get 18 workers so that process doesn't take 3 days, to get done. So I really do think that when you have a year like that, that is when the most could go wrong. And I think when we hit, December 1st and then January 1st to turn into 2025, we ended 2024 on the best kind of note with 4 successful elections, and the people of this town can know that they were run well, that the results were exactly the way that were set up, and especially after reviewing, like with the audit,
Yep.
we got exactly what we were supposed to get done in 2024 with the biggest year you can have.
Even the one that you folks met with on the 18th of November with the military person missed the cutoff and had to do. I mean, even that was an oddity kind of, but
Yeah.
even that went
it did.
well. So
Yeah, see, I think that's fantastic. And, the people that are overseas and things like that, we want to absolutely make sure that those votes count. For me particularly, I had family in the military. And so if somebody's across the pond serving somewhere, I absolutely want to make sure that those people get a chance to vote in their elections here. All 4 of them on a year like that, or a year like this, to still be able to vote for what I think is one of the most important elections you can have, which is the local. So
yeah.
we'll definitely make sure that we try to make sure, like for me, whether it's me that ends up as the permanent clerk or if it's somebody else and I go back to my role as the assistant, I will do absolutely everything I can to make sure that the elections are run as well as they were last year, for sure.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay. So I did pass along that deleted voter file.
Yes.
So it looks I just quickly this morning, it looks like we had over 1,000 voters that were deleted. I could be wrong about that, Mike, but I think it was 1,000 in 2024. So clearly people are, the clerk's office is looking at these things, and the people that are assigned to it, whether it was Mike or Candy, are certainly, that's a lot of movement on a voter file.
Yeah, I was surprised it was as large.
Well, I
Yeah,
wonder
yeah.
how many of those were like duplicate, so.
Oh, that's a
you know.
good point. Yeah, yep,
even
it's a good point.
still.
Sure, but now we can,
Right.
I guess what I'd like us to understand too, it's just like, if we can allow the clerk's office to do their thing and have at least the materials to take a look and perhaps be in communication with the clerk's office on a fairly regular basis without bothering them too much to say, hey, can you answer this or that? I think Mike's been great with regards to his response to our various questions.
Well, and if I just
Sure,
just to speak
please,
on why
absolutely.
there may have been so many, because of that presidential, there were people that were registering at their new places, and when you register like at the registry, for example,
Yeah.
those deletions come right through to the VRIS system. So we delete those people like on a daily basis. So sometimes we might have had 10 people to delete in a day.
Yeah.
And so like because of the major election, the presidential, of course, people were registering in other places. So there were a lot of deletions that ended up happening. People signing up in other towns, people like, deciding to, register at, if they were at school at UPenn, they were registering down in Pennsylvania instead. So those things were happening. So I think that's why you would have a lot more deletions in a presidential year. I would anticipate.
Yeah. No, that's
I couldn't pull from like 2020. I don't know if I can pull from like other years from them, but the extract from the previous year, I would assume that's why 2024 had more deletions than normal.
No, it's good insight into why it is the number would be. If
Yes.
1,000 is high, and
Yeah,
I agree with
yeah,
you.
and then-
I haven't seen it in previous years. Want to know if
Yeah,
that
so
a high
like
number,
if
is that
I
a low
run it
number?
again, on
Yeah.
December 31st of 2025, maybe it turns out that there's only 600, and that would make a lot of sense to me.
Right.
Yep.
Just based on
Agreed.
the elections that are going to happen this year comparatively to last year.
And so that presidential election year where people are certainly more involved, now the people that are on our rolls that really perhaps shouldn't be but didn't do anything in those off presidential years didn't go to their town, and so to re-register where their new address is, I think to your point, right? And so as a result of that for lack of a better word, exposed those voters on our rolls. It's just like, no, they don't live here. Now, you can see they've registered now in whatever other town, Millbury, Auburn, and so that was good. So that's a great explanation, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah.
No problem.
That makes sense. All right, any further discussion on various deleted voter extracts?
No.
Okay, item 3, user policy. So, Mike, I guess maybe this is more directed at you. We did talk to Candy during the year about perhaps it maybe one of us or all of us somehow getting certified on Veris. I know that she knows, or she had said that the state seems to be going to a more modified system, and there was some thought of perhaps delaying any of that if that was going to happen until the state transitioned over to a new system. I can understand. I think what seems to be happening now is, for me personally, is would I like to be on Veris so I could come in and take a look at things? Certainly. Do I understand the security concern about that? 100%, right? I know the computer system is here. It's a closed system. It just comes into the clerk's office in various towns. People have sign-ons to do the work, whether it's looking at a removal. But as a clerk, I can understand how that, and as the office, is a concern that people know what they're doing and do the right thing. You don't want to go into that state file and have myself do something that isn't right in the file, and then they're looking at the clerk's office going, hey, what happened here? It's just like, well, that was one of the registrars. So I do understand that part of it. I just didn't know if, as I say, and the previous clerk seemed to feel like, at some point, maybe that's a conversation to have to put either one of us or all of us on Veris. My term, VRIS. I don't know if that's how you feel about it, or if you had any thoughts with regards.
So it's something that I certainly could talk to the state about, that the group that runs that program. They
Yep.
are changing it over. They mentioned this summer. They're doing whatever their improvements are.
Okay.
But what I can tell you is that for us, we individually get a key card for it. And so, you know, if Candy was going to be on VRIS, her key card gets pushed, and so all of the changes and things that she does inside the system get marked as, like, you know, so like my code would be GRFMJE. Okay? So like if I certify somebody from the registry and update them in the system and they get they've registered to vote at the RMV or whatever it is.
Yep.
So if you go in and double click on their name, it'll say that like this has been updated by GRFMJE. So I know that I was the person that did that update.
Right.
And so that's something that I would have to discuss with the state, because they're the ones that give us the key codes for all of the people that are allowed to be on the system.
Gotcha.
So, so obviously Candy will have been removed by them,
Right.
and then Nancy, also no longer with us as part of that program,
Right.
will also have her key card returned, I believe.
Yep.
And so, for me, like I continue to say, just you know, because I'm not the clerk, I'm the interim clerk, and so they're going to do the search, and whoever ends up being the clerk will be able to certainly work with you guys and work with the state. If I should be so fortunate to have the opportunity, I would certainly be willing to reach out to them and ask them what the proper protocol is and how they would proceed with getting key cards and things like that. Because even if it is me, I also then would, of course, I would need my own, I'd need an assistant clerk, as I'm doing both of those roles right now. So the request would obviously be, you know, as soon as I could, to get somebody up to speed so that I can have somebody else that can do some of that work. Because right now it is just Todd and I. He's phenomenal, an incredible learner, has done absolutely everything we could have asked of him. And so that's why it would be pertinent to find somebody else to be able to like go in there and do some of those changes. But again, as somebody that's not actually like officially the clerk, just interim role, that's something that I would be able to look into, you know, after the process has completed.
Great.
Yeah,
Go
this is something we have talked about in the past, and the question of whether we need to actually do it or we need to have information so that we can do what we're mandated to do. And that would be working with you to produce that information so we could review it. So that we, you know, that would be okay too.
Right.
You know,
I agree.
mean, rather than feeling like we had to go into Veris to do it. If
Sure, and that's why, like, you know, for example, like Dan has made a couple requests of extracts that I've been able to go in there and print out, and you know, again, we'll do our best to get them formatted properly so that like they're easily viewable. And certainly when you guys make those requests, it even though it's from a particular board, it acts just as a public records request. And so, you know, I can go into the system and request the extract, and that they generally do them like a couple of times, however their schedule gets set up, and then I'd be able to, it'll show up in my system, and then I'll be able to try to do the formatting. So like when you guys are looking for something like that, that is generally something that we would be able to go in there and try to figure out for you.
I mean, if we were in terms of frequency, how often would we want that to happen? Every quarter, or?
Well, I think you meant, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned it at the last meeting. I think you said something about potentially monthly.
Monthly.
But I
considering what I've just heard about the amount of work involved.
Sure.
And you know.
I've always viewed this as a little bit of taking that work, that whether it was the board, that even if it was just one of us, right? Like initially, the conversation with the previous clerk tended to be having extra bodies in the clerk's office can be a difficulty, and you know, it wasn't really, I think, addressing the point, right? We had, so it appears that, you know, that it, so the four people that were in the office previous, Mike and Candy and Todd and Nancy, all can get into this that system that by law we also should be able to get into, right? They're not registrars, but they have access to a system. We are, and legally we have a right to get in there. However, I think we've been sensitive to how the office runs, and you know, it's just, I think we, you know, certainly for me personally, I took a step back. It's like, okay, I guess I understand.
Yeah.
I think the piece that wasn't fully explained to me a few years ago was, But you have a right to do it, and if you ask for these extracts, we're happy to get them for you.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe, I mean, I think with Mike, that, I think that's going to be a little bit of a different ballgame, which makes me feel a lot better. It's just like, yep, someone that's a little bit more friendly to the idea of, hey, we're not trying to run your office, but we're just trying to do our job here as far as oversight of the rule piece. So, I mean, and it might come up. So it seems like, to kind of put a lid on it, maybe to some extent. I'm happy to get, Mike's right. There's some undecided things, whether the new system hasn't been put in place yet, whether Mike's not officially our town clerk yet. So absolutely, there are some, when those things get settled, and perhaps we would revisit as a board and say, okay, how do we want to do this? Are we happy just not having anything to do with Veris, or would we like Mike to try to pursue this, as he said he would be willing to do, with the state to see? Do we want it to be the three of us? Maybe one of us would say, could we be? You see this with other boards in towns. It's like they're the rep for something, right? Let's say Rec Commission. They have someone on CPC. Right, they're on that board, but they also did that thing. Maybe it'd just be one of us or whatever. But I'm happy to delay that conversation, until things settle down. And and again, I think it's good timing only because, as Mike said, 2024 was the Super Bowl of elections with 4. Now we're in that lull. Certainly this year. In next year will be state elections, I believe. There'll be some state election, and then for obviously the presidential again. Right. But now we're in that kind of a lull period where I think if now's the time to kind of go, hey, let's take a look at things, and if there's things we'd like to see that we feel we could do better as a group or whatever, perhaps we could try to start to institute those things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Further discussion on item 3. Okay, perfect. That was great. Item 4, post-election audit meeting minutes. Okay, so we've done a good job of, I think we're pretty much caught up, except for that post audit minute meeting. So I know for me, I put a little note in here, come clean up confusion, who is responsible for minutes. So Mike, I don't know if, there's, in 2023, this board, we went through a reorganization, and in that, Candy was made the clerk of the board, not the town. She's the town clerk.
Yep.
She's also the clerk of the board. So the responsibility of taking minutes and doing that stuff, and you would probably know this too, right? I sent her some of the recordings that I sent to her, and she transcribed them and whatever else.
Yep.
So towards the end of the year, for whatever reason, that kind of fell off, and we're kind of scrambling. It's all right, who wants to put together the minutes? So we did do some of that. We did 2 of the 3 meetings we did. With regards to this one, now it's kind of like, okay, can we all talk about the information? Hence, I appreciate you sending in the form you brought us with the post audit stuff.
Yeah, that would be it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
would be-
that's a good one. Although I will tell you that, and I know this form exists, the town of Princeton. So I don't want to get too far into the weeds. We as a board decided that if you guys remember in a previous meeting, that we were going to all go to the meeting and we were all going to participate as running the recount. In effect, Candy she knew her stuff. She, in effect, that was Mike and Candy kind of doing that, and we kind of took a step back. I think, what happens in other towns, and it did happen in Princeton, was that their board said, nope, go ahead, town clerk, you run it. They weren't there. And as a result of that generated meetings from their audit, and they're pretty extensive. I have the minutes from them. So as part of her packet, or the clerk there, they also added the standardized audit file that every town submits, which is this, having to do with the audit. And that really just laid out numbers, and on the back of it, it asked for some description. Ours doesn't have the descriptions to the back side of it. Really, the long and short of it is, we can all try to cobble together some information. There's nothing pressing with those minutes. So point 1 would be, well, certainly Mike gave us input on what he saw, and I had some notes too. I don't think I sent them to you guys, but I'll get them to you. And then perhaps collectively we can come up with how to set that up. I don't know if Mike wants to have any input in that part of it. He was there too. So perhaps if we all looked at it, and then if there was anything we wanted to add, we could. I don't think we're going to be able to recreate the minutes that maybe some other towns have done with their extensiveness, but certainly I think we'll be able to to get the flavor of what it is, what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you include the form
Yep.
at the back,
Yeah.
I mean,
Good point.
and then going over essentially just, what took place.
Right.
Because obviously you guys opened up the containers and then the group, counted the ballots into the 50s, and then we had the teams doing all of that stuff, and you guys then did the rechecks and like placed it back into the booklet, and then you guys of course watched the other town clerk from Holden. She was our numbers
Yeah. I forget
person,
that she
which
had a
was
title.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So
Very nice.
Jean was terrific,
Yep.
and so
Very
I think as long as we lay it out like that and then include these numbers at the back, that should definitely be satisfactory to what took place on that day.
Great. I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I think you're right about that. Part of also with this piece though is now moving forward. How do you, is because I guess with Candy so Candy was the clerk of the board, and my understanding is really typically in the law it talks about the town clerk will be the clerk of the board of registrars. However, that doesn't, if you felt as though you didn't really want to be the clerk of our board and we, were to make someone else the clerk, I guess that would be in play. Or do you want to continue what Candy did prior to those last 3 meetings, but before the meetings that we're talking about now? She did the minutes on that part of it, would center the stuff.
So I hate to keep harping on it, but just simply because I'm the interim clerk, I don't want to make a decision on the board, because the next time this board meets, it might not be me sitting here. So I would want to make sure that like whoever it is, they can then make that decision about whether or not they would be like the clerk of the board.
Okay.
But until that point, if you guys wanted to
Today's meeting.
yeah. So like for
I mean,
example,
okay, yeah.
today's meeting, if you guys wanted to put together the minutes of today's meeting and then we all can review it and somebody sends it to me, I can certainly get it posted and I'll review and we could
So
have
that's a deviation from what would be typical practice, i.e. you put together the minutes.
So-
You know what
so, I mean,
and I
it-
appreciate that. I hear what it's just like, but so when we talk, sadly, sometimes though, with boards, when we talk about, well, we do it collectively, and then it's like, but we didn't assign, you know what I mean? I guess what I'm trying to say, and I don't mean to hammer the point myself, is that you're the clerk of this board. That that is the case. So, but if I hear what you're saying. Like
Yeah,
and moving forward after this meeting, I appreciate that. And for this meeting, if someone said, "Okay, I'll do the minutes for this meeting," great. Then we wouldn't have to worry about this meeting. But at the until we, I guess we could restructure the board until we have that meeting where we say, okay, new chair, new vice chair, new clerk. You're filling in for Candy, so Candy was the clerk of the board.
Sure. I mean, listen, if that's how you guys would like it to go, I'll certainly review this meeting and I can do the minutes on it. I'm the person that was responsible for town meeting minutes in 2024, so
Okay.
certainly that's about 80 additional pages of minutes, so
For each meeting?
for each meeting.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that'll be in the annual town report from the town clerk, so you guys can take a peek
Wow.
at the minutes we did for that.
I'm sure it was a lot.
Yeah.
How about this? How about you and I co-do this meeting? You know what I mean? Like, I will take a look at, as far as creating the minutes. This is meetings, the only, we have the audit, which we can all, we
Sure.
can shoot emails back and forth. How about you and I are the ones that are responsible for the minutes for this particular meeting, and then we'll see where we are at our next meeting. As you say, perhaps you're the clerk, and, you can give it some time to think it over.
Yeah.
There is some legalese with regards to the town clerk being the clerk of the board. But let's do that.
And
You and I
again,
will stay in
like,
contact.
so as quickly as I can learn the job, I'm just doing my
I
best
understand. Yep.
to continue to captain the ship in the correct direction. And if it is to be that way, then I would have absolutely no problem. And certainly, we do all the postings of all the minutes. We post all the agendas. And so if it came to our office is going to be the ones in charge of doing the minutes for the Board of Registrars, then that's something that I would absolutely do. So that's fine.
All right, great. This one, though, for today, you and I will accomplish.
Sure.
Just you and
Yeah.
I. Okay, perfect. Where are we? So we're still talking about user policy. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We moved on, right? So this was post-election audit minute meetings. So we touched on that. I'll send out the other piece, and I will try to. I do have the meeting minutes of that Princeton meeting. If either of you would like to take a look at it, just to see what's in there, and try to use it as a little bit of a boilerplate for what we're going to try to do. But just so you have a reference, you know what I'm talking about when I say, wow, they went over, like, as you remember from our meeting, they had, there was some ballots that were in contention. The people that were in the recount said, gee, we don't agree on this, and we made a decision as a board to say, yep, we like that. My recollection is that probably happened like 4 or 5 times. It may have been more.
But you just summarize it.
Yes, right. So this is where we're at. We're going to be summarizing. We're just going to basically say, hey, that was our job. We looked at how that worked looked at a ballot, and we made a decision. Right. So So you perfect. That's how we'll go about it. Okay. Any further discussion on post-election audit meeting minutes? Okay. Item 5, town clerk document used to clarify voter residency status. Mike, I think you did that really, right? You talked about in some of our previous discussion here, and so really, so and correct me if I'm wrong, but so the form we send out at the beginning of the year on that form, you could say this person left, and if they signed that, they could be removed from the voter roll.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
So that would be one document used. What about any other documents? So let's say it was like let's say there was some question as to, but I think you already touched on that too. There is is it a form letter or a postcard that goes out?
It's a letter
to the voter.
Yep.
It's a letter.
that gets
Okay.
mailed to the new address that we would have listed for them, and then it just confirms that they were they still at that address, or
Is there any way we can get a copy of that letter? Is it a form letter that's sent out by the state, or is it something
no?
you guys craft?
No, it's something from us. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the state isn't going to help you do it. They just ask that you do that.
At some point, can I come by and pick up a copy of it?
Yeah, I'll try to see.
I mean, it's got to be a public. If you want me to public records request it, I'll do that too. It doesn't matter.
I think I can probably. I'll try to see if I can find, because we.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
But yeah.
I don't know if you guys might not be interested in taking a look at it, but so really it would be the letter that they sent. It's just like to see that just what's on there.
From an educational perspective.
Yeah,
might be
I've never seen
helpful,
it.
But it's not like a critical.
So it is listed in
Right
Mass
now.
General Law 5137 by the first Monday in June. Registrars. So so this is, I guess this highlights the point that I think Mike, hopefully you get from our side of it too, and we certainly appreciate where you're coming from. But by the first Monday in June, the registrars must send a confirmation notice to all persons. It's not the town clerk. This is, by law, Mass General Law, the registrars must send a confirmation notice to all persons who appeared in the annual register of voters last year, but not on the current list. It must inform them that their name may be removed from the voter list if the voter fails to respond to the notice and does not vote in the next 2 biennial elections. So, it's the mandate is for the board. It's not for the town clerk.
But the
when
clerk
it comes
is a member of the board.
I agree with you. You know what I mean? I understand
They're
that.
acting
But
on
I'm
it,
just
so
trying to
you
make it clear, especially in Mike's new capacity, that, yep, nope, we're all in this. And I'll be the first one to say, thank you on behalf of the registrars, Registrar Jeanette, for sending these letters. But, it really does boil down to how much do we want to, either be involved or take a look or whatever else. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I'm trying to say by that. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I think going back to our previous discussion about, having, a list of, from the Veris or whatever it's called.
Deleted voter file?
The deleted voter file.
Okay.
That, whether we decide it's monthly or quarterly, we'll have a good understanding, better understanding, I think, as to how the system works, which is what we want, right?
I would agree. I mean, I think we've always been in this position. We kick it around in various different ways. Really, the clerk's office is doing our job, and I'm appreciative of that. But in this board, or
So I
certainly,
see it as collaborative.
I don't.
Yeah, I think the board defers to the town clerk
Right.
as a
Correct.
member of the board to do the bulk of the work for the rest of the board.
Yes, I think that's right. But I think for this, the way our current board is made up, though, we'd like to just be a little bit more involved, or have a little bit of better idea of what's happening.
Which is knowledge of it.
Knowledge,
Yes.
I think, is
Fair enough.
the key,
Right.
because if, you know, again, once again, if we're have a mandate to oversee and be part of
Yep.
the process of elections in town, then, you know, we wanna be accountable to the townspeople, so we wanna know what the hell's going on, that's.
Agreed.
And not that there's any question, on my part that things aren't happening the way they should, it's just, I wanna be able
No, I
to
think
say to
it's-
the
Well,
people.
a lot
you
of
know,
other people question how things are done. and
Exactly,
As the board of
that's-
registrars, you wanna be able to explain to them
Exactly.
how it is, to make sure that as
Yeah,
the clerk has always made us feel comfortable with how things have been done.
Yeah.
We wanna be able to pass that on to other people that may ask the same
Exactly.
questions.
I agree with that. Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
All right, anything further on documents used to clarify residency status, item 5?
No.
Okay, we can move on to item 6, vote on minutes. So the 11:16 minutes,
11,
I'm sorry, yeah, 11:16:20, that's the
20th, yeah.
list I have first, so, that, none of us were at that meeting.
Yeah.
That was, you know, Candy provided us those minutes. We've touched on this previously. You can be a board member of a board and approve minutes even if you weren't at the meeting of whose minutes you're approving. And that is the case for all of us with regards to this. I looked at, I did go into that 2020 yearly report because that's where for our first minutes, that's where they come from. There's no mention of that meeting on the 16th of November, which kind of makes sense. That was because it was that overseas ballot piece again. And I can tell you, although we did have it this year, we did, you and I were at where we took a look at that ballot. This was the first year I've seen it. So I think it's an uncommon thing to have happen. Although in 2020 that was another presidential election. So I guess all I'm saying is Candy seemed confident. She provided the minutes to the meeting. She seemed confident in those minutes. So I have confidence that those minutes are appropriate. But you know, and if we'll put it out there, we'll put it up for vote, and we'll see how people feel. And if there's something else we have to do about it to go at that, then we'll do it a different way. But
Are you saying there was no minutes, or there were minutes that just were lost, or what? We can't find
what I'm
them?
saying is that so this was in 2020.
Yeah,
So somehow those minutes were never right, like so
they were
done
documented.
expeditiously,
Yeah.
right? Well, done expeditiously. You know, it doesn't seem like there was a taping of the meeting. It's not on. It's not a video of the meeting. So the minutes were produced by Candy in her best recollection of the meeting.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Do you have those? Have you seen them?
I
you
have seen
reviewed them? Oh, good.
She sent them to all of us, but let me see
Oh,
if I
she
can.
did?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't
Let
remember.
me see if I can.
That's fine, you know, if,
No, I think you should, you know, I mean, so this is what she sent out.
okay.
Take a minute, we're not in a rush.
Yeah. So a meeting of the Board of Registers was held on Monday, November 16th, 2020, in the Town Clerk's office. The meeting was called to order at 12:30, and the FWABs received via mail were counted and added to the election totals. Motion was made to adjourn the meeting and was seconded.
Yep, yeah.
Okay. Mike, had you seen it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I will take a motion to approve the minutes from the November 16, 2020 meeting.
So move.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's passed unanimously 4-0 on the November 16th minutes. Next up is the October 1st, 2024 meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at those?
Yes.
Candy sent those ones out too. So. Okay, I will take a motion for the approval of the minutes of that October 1st meeting.
So move.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is that an aye, Mike?
Aye.
Are you
Oh,
with
yeah,
us? Okay, yep. So that's 4-0 too. Also 4-0. We got one more.
November 8th.
November 8th, 2024. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes?
Yes.
I wrote 'em, so I approve them. Took me a while, but I got it.
Yeah, that was
That
a
was a long
stellar
meeting.
job.
That was a long
sir.
meeting.
Good
I gotta
job. I
say.
know,
That
I
was a
realized.
hell of a long meeting.
I didn't realize how long.
I
it
had
was.
to review it on tape and then extract what I could from it.
It was a long meeting.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Well done. Well done. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the November 8th meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Aye, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So those minutes are also approved 4-0. And one last one, right? Yeah, one more.
18th.
Okay, 11/18/24. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good job.
Has everyone been able to review these minutes? Okay, perfect. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the November 18th meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Aye, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that takes care of our minutes.
All right.
Again, we'll be working on that other set of minutes from the election piece, so that should be for our next meeting. We can talk about that. We don't have to really. At some point, I imagine we can talk about when you want to try to schedule it, maybe in a couple months or whatever. Maybe we'll see about. Because okay, so item 7 on the agenda is old business. So some of the old business that I kind of wanted to touch on is last year for this meeting, we talked about whether it was early in-person election stuff, whether this board felt we wanted to have early in-person. We will have a May election, yeah, Mike, right?
Correct.
Local election.
The 20th.
The 20th, and that was what we weighed in on. So, I mean, I guess I'm going at what I think is going to have to be an upcoming agenda item using old businesses, stuff that we've gone over previous, right? So, if it's in May, we're gonna have to probably make it, I guess, I know you're not,
But there is like a deadline, so I
Yep.
would want to make sure that this board had a set up meeting, like even if it was in, I forget I'm sorry, I can't
that's
recall
okay.
the number of days
I'm with you.
ahead of time.
Yep.
But this board is the one that controls whether or not there
Correct.
is in-person
right.
voting. And so,
right.
you know, there's
wondering-
you have to have, I think, mail-in voting available for local elections, which, that's of course on us, but, the early voting is decided upon by this board.
That's right.
correct.
So and there is a time
Yeah.
Yeah.
standard that I can't recall off the top of my head, but there is, I can't remember if it's 45 days in advance or whatever it is, but this board decides whether or not we're gonna do in-person voting for that local. And so that's something that I think, again, I know, whether it's me or whoever it is, but it should be on an agenda that's coming up, like even if it was next month sometime, like, you know, maybe even like a month from today would be perfect. Because I wanna make sure that that gets done and taken care of so that, our office, that I certainly still anticipate being a part of in whatever capacity, knows whether or not we're gonna do early voting for that election. Would be fantastic if we can,
Yep.
if we can put that as an agenda item for the next time.
I hear everything you're saying, and I agree. I will take a look to, so next month, perhaps, perhaps. I'm pretty sure 2 years ago we did it in March. But, you and I, whether we shoot emails back and forth, let's confirm that when that notice, what that time
Yeah,
frame is.
I'll check
And-
the elections calendar
Yeah, okay.
to see what the state
I can do that too.
requires for
Sure.
that decision to be made ahead of time, how long it is required.
Let's unofficially say we will meet again in either February or early March. You know what I mean, right? So next month would be
Sure.
February, and then early March.
Yes,
That-
and then of course, if I found out that for some reason it was needed to be made a lot sooner,
Yep.
Yeah.
I would certainly let this
Yep.
board know, and
We'll accelerate
a
that.
meeting could happen.
Sure.
As soon as we could make it happen. Okay.
Yep, perfect.
We could just set a meeting now if we wanted to.
I wouldn't, we've done a pretty good job of communicating back and forth. He might have a seminar to go, I'd like to confer, I'd like to check my own calendar
Okay.
too, if you don't
All right.
mind.
No.
But I appreciate that.
Sure, but we can certainly be in discussions about it. I
Yeah,
think.
absolutely. Emails back and forth, that's
Okay.
no issue with that whatsoever. Early in person, so that's what we talked about there. And also, Mike, with regards to early in person, one of the other things that gets talked about here is the clerk's office versus the gymnasium. So, I guess I don't want to put the, one before the other, but that's going to have to come up too. I believe the state understands Grafton to use the clerk's office as the alternative site. So in the past, we've said, oh, Candy's brought it forward. We voted on it as a board. It's like, nope, we're going to have it in the gym.
Yeah.
You may, if you wouldn't mind, if you would take a look at that too, to see if that's going to be part of, you know what I mean? Like, I'm guessing if we have early in person, if the board was to vote for it, you'd want to have it in the gym. And so if you wouldn't mind taking a look to see how that's going to play itself out, I guess maybe we would have to vote. I would probably be inclined to put that on an agenda item, both that at our next meeting. We'll decide on early in
on
person.
whether it is and then where it
right.
will
And if
actually
we
be
say
held.
no early in person, the
Correct.
location will be moot. But if we say yes, then we'll move right into the change into the municipal gym.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I'll certainly save that discussion, but I can also get you guys, I think it's somewhere, the number of people who showed up for early voting in a couple of the earlier elections. Obviously, November stands on its own.
Yeah.
There was 2 weeks of early voting. People
Yeah.
clearly showed up to that. But the numbers of early voting in person for the first couple of elections last year was very small. So that's something that I'll go over with you guys again. I'll try to gather those
Okay.
numbers to give you guys an idea of what those kind of numbers look like. As Dan put together for the local election, you saw the turnout numbers percentage wise. Obviously, November was always going to be a large number, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, that's natural.
Yep.
But the local, I think, was like 23% of
Yeah.
the turnout of
I know.
registered voters. So, that's something, of course, that I would, if I'm sitting here with you guys in the next meeting, which would be fantastic, I'll certainly get you guys the numbers and we can have that full discussion. Okay.
Great, that'd be great. Thank you. I'm going through some of these other things that I had thought about with regards to old business, and some of it is really, the flavor of our conversation so far. Certainly for Mike, you have been, hey, it's better. Let's resolve the town clerk issue and who's going to be. So some of this is moving forward, and so it's really not. I don't really see too much of it here. Reorganizing the board, that will come up again. Probably maybe we might be able to add that as an agenda item for our next meeting. Poll worker training in 2025. That was an old, that happened to be an old thing.
I definitely, whether it's a full training or if it's just a gathering of the body of election workers, if I was in charge of that, I'm absolutely going to do that. I'm going to
Okay.
make sure that I have a big meeting with everybody I can get involved. I'll try to find a date that works absolutely best for as many of those election workers. And if you guys, we can certainly turn it into because we'd have the quorum there. If you guys wanted to come and so we'll set that up like that.
Oh, great.
But certainly I want to meet with that team because I know how fantastic a job they did. I know how good those wardens and clerks are, that helped us run those 4 elections last year. I was here 4 a.m. to 4 a.m. on election night in November. So, working 24 straight hours, and I know how hard those wardens and clerks had to work. So I would very much like to meet with that team again, thank them again for last year, of course.
Sure.
But then to go over what to expect this year and getting people, making sure that we have a team set for 26, as there'll be 3 elections next year. So we're gearing right back up towards it. It's never, even though this year seems a little quote unquote easier, you're always in preparation for the major things that are going to come up in the following years. So I think it would be fantastic to have that meeting / training if that's the way it worked out.
That's great.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Very good.
Okay. Yeah. But as I say, I had some other items here, but I think that they have more to do with. We'll wait. There can be a subsequent meeting. It really is in reference to our next agenda item. So we'll wait and see. We can talk about that and see if there's things we want to have on there for you. Does anyone else have any old business things we've talked about in the past that had a question about moving forward?
Not at this time.
No,
Okay.
For me.
we're good.
So that's our last agenda item. If there is no further business, I intend to declare this meeting adjourned. Any further business anyone can think of? Any further discussions, anything like that? Okay. I declare this meeting adjourned. The time is 1:04. All right. That was great.
Good.
Can't see too
Thank
much,
you.
but
Thanks,
that was
Mike.
great.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys.
Mike,
Yeah,
thanks.
nice
Yeah, I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
welcome. It's
Yeah, that was
really
awesome.
nice to work with you.
Oh,
Another one
very
of the
nice to
new
work with
things
you
you
guys
got to
too.
jump into
Absolutely.
with these meetings, but.
And I brought my census with me.
Oh, thank you very much.
Ah,
I
Todd
didn't
and
get
I,
mine yet.
Todd
I'm
and
sure
I
it's
have
in the
been
mailbox
grinding
right now.
away in there. We're gonna do our best. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. Thank you guys. You know, I think I'm looking forward.
I hope you like our meet. Like, they're fun. I don't think Candy, I don't think she liked it too much. It's like we love to hear from the clerk's office. We love,
Yeah.
it's just like to hear what's going on. I mean,
Absolutely.
I just think that's the
As
flavor. of
I've
it.
said to like everybody that I've
Yeah.
met with, I love this building. I have a lot of fun. I make it a point to try to go to each one of the offices and if the clerk's office can help and we'll do everything we can. And so I'm just doing my best to get all the answers for everybody. I'm doing public records requests. I'm trying to do all the certifications. The state's a pain in the butt letting me in as the burial agent and things like that. So they've been
Yeah.
just incredibly impossible. It's just so funny. I had sent something on the 20th of December, and the person that runs that system then sends me something back on January 9th that says, actually, I also need these 3 pages from you. So I said, what would have been fantastic is on that Friday when I sent you this, if you sent that back to me, I would have been. I only took the one holiday off those next 2 weeks, so
You were around.
I would have been very happy to mail this to you. You could have come back. It would have been in your computer. It would have been awesome. That would have been
Yep.
so great.
So we're gonna
But now here we are, of course,
I'm sure. Yeah.
just delaying the process
They-
from the
they're
state.
off for
Your
That
subtle
they do.
and kind suggestion, the way you
It's-
phrase it, it's just like I'm fearful that's gonna be.
It's one of the
gonna
most
be
amazing things of all time is when you just are trying so hard to get things done. And just to keep you guys informed,
Yeah.
just because I'm always very open about all this stuff. So before Candy had left, I have a trip that's starting on Thursday of this week, so I'm out next
Oh,
week.
great!
My sister had a baby in Florida,
Congratulations.
so I'm taking
Congratulations.
that baby's new grandfather, my dad, and my younger brother, and we're gonna go to Fort Lauderdale
Awesome.
for the week.
That's awesome.
So we're gonna get to see the little guy.
So good.
So it'll be terrific. But
Soak up
again,
your
as you
sun.
guys can imagine, listen. Jack knows. Yeah, that's as an Italian,
This time of year.
I'm not nearly tan enough, so I gotta get back qualified for it.
Gotta
So
get the sun.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it'll be awesome. And so I just wanted to make sure I gave you guys that heads up.
Yeah.
So obviously I won't be doing the email stuff. I'm trying to get Jonathan to see if I can if I can somehow. I don't really want to take the work laptop just in case one of these companies, God forbid,
know.
anything happened to my work materials. So I'm gonna try to see if I can possibly have him help me get just the emails to my phone so I can take a look, so I don't come back to 350,000 of them. But I just wanted to give you guys that heads up. But starting that Monday, the 27th, I'll be back, and we'll work on whatever it is
Okay.
that we need to do. Okay.
Perfect.
Excellent.
I'm pretty sure we
Wonderful.
cannot.
What-
I will commit to not bothering you for the next.
Yeah.
Oh no! Just
No, it's
I'm,
fine.
yeah, as you guys.
I know
can
that's
imagine,
not what you get.
I've lost those other two, and so
Yeah.
Todd,
Right.
just in there,
Yeah.
trying to do
And I did say to you, if
10,000
I'm
census.
happy to advocate for
Oh.
your office to go. Hey, I have
No.
I have zero pull.
These
but it'd be like
these guys have been these guys are fantastic. Like I said, I love this building. Everybody's been very helpful. The TA's office is fantastic group.
Yeah.
They've been nothing but unbelievable for us. So I have great faith, and that's what I was because getting the state so that I could get the 8 births that I had in the system and the multiple deaths, and just cleaning that stuff out before I go will make me feel much better about heading out and
Yeah.
being able to take a vacation instead of it just
Yeah.
being me waking up at 6:45 every morning worrying that something crazy's happening here. But
Yeah.
I feel very confident that
Yeah.
everything will be taken care of, so it's good.
Great.
What is the timeline for instituting a new clerk?
Yeah, I was
filling
just gonna
the
ask that
position?
question.
It's how long do you have to do this crazy?
Yeah.
Sure. So
One person doing 6
the
jobs.
job's been posted. I'm gonna send. I actually am sending
Oh,
my
okay.
application materials today. I
Good.
put my stuff
good.
together before
Oh, good.
last night while I was getting ready to go to bed. So I was putting the final touches on my
Your
own application
Good.
packet.
Okay.
And so and then certainly those guys will keep me informed as best they can. So Unfortunately, I wish I could give you guys a better timeline, but I just, yeah, I
I
have
don't
no
know if
idea.
they, I don't know if they planned to, or if they planned or had to make a decision within
Yeah,
a
like
certain
what's
the
time frame
closing
after
date?
posting
Yeah,
or
you know,
anything.
the select board was fantastic about
Yeah.
making sure that they got me appointed at one of the meetings.
Yeah.
They were
Did see that.
terrific.
Yeah.
Those guys are awesome. They you know,
Yeah.
they got that done very quickly, and
Yeah.
like I said, the TA's office couldn't have been any better about this stuff. I really appreciated it. And so, like, yeah, like I said to you guys during this meeting, you know, I'm just doing my best to make sure that we get everything
Yeah.
going in the right direction, because I know the town meeting's not till May and the election's not till May 20th.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
The amount of
before you
work-
know it, it will
Lots gotta be
be
done.
April
Yeah.
15th, and you're thinking like, oh my God,
And you
we're a
can't-
month away.
And you can't,
so,
and you can't do it just two people in the
No,
office. You need
no,
to be
no.
able to hire other people to be
yeah,
able
you
to
want to
help
make sure
to-
that the whole team's working, and it was great.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, last year to have
Yeah.
the four, you know, to have Nancy as like the helper in the afternoon, like, you know, she was putting those things in alphabetical order by streets, so that when we pulled them at the places, you know, we're reviewing signatures on there and like checking them in and timestamps, and oh my God. And the other day, the guy, of course, the timestamp guy comes in to replace our plate, so it's a beautiful plate so that everybody can see it, and then the timestamp stopped.
Oh,
I literally stamped something on Monday morning, and it was January 9th at 1, or January 10th at 1:20 when he left the office after fixing it. And so I call him and he goes, this is just my luck.
Yeah,
So he
just
finally
your luck,
comes in
too.
yesterday, and I'm
Yeah.
just thinking like, yes, sir, just your luck.
Yeah, right.
I have to
You would
timestamp
never-
these
exactly.
items so that these meetings
my
can
Yeah,
be
you gotta
posted
come back,
correctly.
but now
so
I'm-
now I'm in there like,
Yeah.
I'm like clicking it down so that I have
Yeah,
the
yeah.
right date and the time, and I'm stamping it
my
right
God.
from there.
Just-
I'm hand doing the timestamp.
That
at
is
least you're
very-
able to.
Just so you guys know, that's what it's been.
Wow.
No, I mean, we're not
Never can go
unsympathetic,
wrong,
really,
will go
honestly. But you're right, we're not in this. So, you know, I mean, if we're in the seat of the day to day, I'm sure I'd
I-
be shaking my head going, I don't know how he does it.
I would love to
I can't
just like
imagine he
one
wants to
day
stay
try
on.
to explain, like, because
Yeah,
the
a day in
job
the
as
life of a
assistant
town
town
clerk.
clerk was fantastic, and it's a ton of stuff. And then you see the things that, like, while Todd and I and the other admins were like doing our pieces,
Yep.
to know what was happening in that back room is honestly shocking. It's
Yeah.
shocking to know
Don't
the
change your
public
mind.
records
You could-
requests and no. That's why I really.
Although
loved-
you should have every right to change.
This is for real. I loved the opportunity to do it in the interim
Yeah.
because it gives me what is expected. I'm getting the proper training,
Right.
and so I feel fantastic to have these weeks gearing up,
Yeah.
and then being able to do
100%.
the interview
and
and
also-
things like that. So.
Also to know what you're getting into. is-
Absolutely.
It's
100%.
huge. Like, do I really
Yeah.
want the
That's
job?
Yeah.
And that's why today, you know,
Yeah.
these are things that I'm like checking off before Thursday afternoon when I get on that plane.
Yeah.
You know, I just want, like, if my checklist gets done, just then I'll be on that Fort Lauderdale by the beach sea, you know,
Yeah.
like, I just,
Be
No, it's good.
partying with the college
Oh.
students, right?
I suppose as much as you
not,
can get exposed
not
to.
quite, no.
No.
Thank
Those
you,
days
Jack.
are over, right?
That's fantastic. Yes, we're
Yeah.
past the party time for sure. It's
Come on, you're not that old.
well past those guys.
That's-
Absolutely. Like well past that time. Yes.
Have a few cocktails, maybe you'll get catch the spirit. You'll jump in.
I went there once.
That's the problem when you hit this age though, Dan. I don't even want to do the cocktails anymore.
Oh, brother!
have to
Oh
mix
no! Oh, fair enough.
I don't want to deal with the pain of the following after.
Oh,
Right. That's for sure.
I understand.
Oh, you're welcome. Absolutely.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye, Lisa.
Bye,
Thanks,
Lisa.
Nice to see you. Jack.
This was great.
Dan,
This is really
yeah,
great. I'm so
yeah.
glad I, you know.
Thanks, guys.
We're gonna try to do